So this is what I'm currently reading. I'm starting the year strong because both of these reads are fantastic, phenomenal, and I was hoping for that and I got that. So I'm currently reading Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. This is my first Butler and I just love her writing style. I love the way we are right away thrown into the story of this like young looking black vampire girl, but we know that she's not young, but she looks young and she is trying to figure out what happened to her. How come like when the story started, how come when she woke up she was like burnt and she had like all these scars and now she's healing. And yeah, it's just such a good vampire discovery book, and it is definitely lit fic. I'm also reading obviously Patti Smith. You guys know I'm in love with Patti Smith, and these are just little fragments of stories on writing and how like she comes to devotion, and it's just beautiful, brilliant, and I highly recommend both of these reads. So guys, this is what I'm currently reading like every day. I have Lord Byron Travels, I have Shelley Poems, and I also have a Vindication of the Rights of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft. I'm not currently reading this one, but I do want to pick it up at some point. And I'm going to be starting the Divine Comedy by Dante. I read Inferno like when I was in my undergrad, and now I have yet to read the whole thing. So I want to read the whole thing. I'm following along with a read-along online on Substack and stuff, so I think that's going to be really good to get through a canto a week. And yeah, I'll update at some point, but these are the books that I'm currently reading. I'm obsessed with the Everyman collection. They really make one of the most stunning covers and books. So I definitely do want to start collecting books in this edition, although they're very expensive. So I think I'll just like collect a few of my favorites. Hello, my name is Sandra and welcome back to my channel. So today we're not going to delay it. We have a few books that I want to get through for the month of January. I don't think I'm going to be reading all of these books this month because I have been slowing down my reading, and I do have a few wrap-up videos to film this month, and I am writing. I'm currently drafting my novel and I will be filming videos for that as well. I pretty much front-loaded my January, so now I'm kind of like dealing a little bit of a slow burnout. So I need to make sure that I'm taking the time actually to read and relax and sit down. So that's why I wanted to share some of these books. But since I've shared these books recently a few times, I'm not really going to go into details because you guys probably have seen my book haul, you probably have seen my latest videos and whatnot. Quickly show what I'm reading. I basically have dark academia, gothic books, and that's pretty much it. I have a lot of vampire books that I want to read, but there are many more that I want to read, and I think I'll make that video whenever I'm done with these books. I don't think there's a point of showing more than 10-15 books if I'm not going to try to read them all this month. So without further ado, let's get started. First book I have here, I talked about it before, is Le Fantôme de l'Opéra, which is the Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Did you guys see that? Something fell out. Oh, there's a bookmark. Oh well. So I definitely want to read this. It's in French, so I'm going to be filming my French vlog because you guys know it's my goal to film and read one French book a month. So I need to do this month. And then I have a book on like writing creativity, and it's The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I've only heard great things about this book. It says, break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles. So I'm hoping that this is going to help me for the moments where I have these little blocks, because it's the first time that I'm actively drafting in a very long time, and it's very noticeable to me that I'm not approaching my craft like I used to. So I'm hoping that this book will give me some fire, if that makes sense. I also have this one, which is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Takorchuk. I actually was watching a video last night of her speaking on the Louisiana channel, and yeah, I think she's Polish and she won the Nobel Prize for Literature with this book. And I did order her other book because her other book, Flights, sounds so amazing. This one is apparently a great book for a winter, and it just intrigues me so much. So I'm going to read the blurb because it's really short. It says here, in a remote Polish village, Janina devotes the dark winter days to studying astrology, translating the poetry of William Blake, and taking care of the summer homes of wealthy Warsaw residents. Already I'm hooked. Like, this is like dream job, dream goals. Her reputation as a crank and a recluse is only amplified by her not so secret preference for the company of animals over humans. Then a neighbor, Bigfoot, turns up dead. Soon other bodies are discovered in increasingly strange circumstances. As suspicions mount, Janina inserts herself into the investigation, certain that she knows who done it. If only anyone would pay her mind. Oh my god, sounds so good. I actually cannot wait to read this month. So I have this next book, which is The Last Man by Mary Shelley, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this, and I am definitely excited to read this. It's again like a kind of sci-fi book. I read last year I read Mary Shelley's Matilda, and I loved it and I connected deeply. There's something about Mary Shelley that deeply resonates with me and I deeply relate to, so I definitely wanted to read this one and then maybe probably do a reread of Frankenstein as well. It says here, written while Mary Shelley was in a self-imposed lockdown after the loss of her husband and children, and in the wake of the climate-changing eruption and a raging cholera outbreak, The Last Man is the first End of Mankind novel, an early work of climate fiction and a prophetic depiction of environmental change. Set in the late 21st century, the book tells of a deadly pandemic that leaves a lone survivor following his journey to a post-apocalyptic world that's devoid of humanity and reclaimed by nature. Actually, forget it. I love this so much, but I'm going to read it in March when I'm writing my post-apocalyptic book. Forget about what I said. I had a feeling I picked this up for a pandemic book. So instead of this one, I'm waiting on a copy of Frankenstein to be delivered. I'm going to be reading that one. I'm sorry for the mix-up, but I am so excited though to read this in March. But I want to get the vampire gothic books first in because I'm writing vampire right now, and then I'm going to go and immerse myself in post-apocalyptic fiction. So the next three books are your typical classics and gothic books, and I've mentioned them so many times on this channel, so it's just a matter of me reading them this month. I have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I have Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu, and I obviously need to read this because it's seminal in the vampire canon. And I also have The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. I've never read anything by Angela Carter, but I've only heard great things, and apparently these are just little short stories and retellings, and honestly this just sounds up my alley. The next two books are dark academia books that I have mentioned on this channel. I have Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. This is not dark academia, but it is kind of like a mystery thriller that reminds me of the book called The Plot that I read a few years back, and I love that book. And this one basically it follows this girl, June, that takes the story of Athena because Athena just passes away in front of her, and she's always been jealous of Athena, and she's always wanted what Athena had, which is being rich and fame, like literary fame. So since she passes away, she takes on her story and she takes on her identity, and I know this is going to be so crazy to read. I also have These Violent Delights by Micah Nemerover. Apparently it's set in the 1970s, and it's about these two boys that are rival but maybe lovers, and it's very much in that vein of books. I also have these two, and I mentioned them in that book haul, fall book haul video, and both of them are retellings. So the first one is a retelling of The Haunting of Hill House. It's called A Haunting on the Hill by Elizabeth Hand, and honestly I love Hill House so much. I just want to read anything that's similar to Hill House, and that's why I wanted to read this one. And then I have An Education in Malice, which is funny because it's dark academia, but it's also sapphic, but it's also a Carmilla retelling, so it's just hitting all the boxes. And I read S.T. Gibson's other vampire novel about 2 years ago now when I first got my story idea, and it was what was it called? A Dowry of Blood, and I love that book so much, so I just cannot wait to pick something else by her, especially since it's vampire and it's sapphic and it's a Carmilla retelling. So I definitely need to read Carmilla first, and then I will definitely read this one next. So I think that's it for now. Obviously I have a lot more books that I want to read, but these are the ones that I really want to try to put my focus and attention on this month. Let me know how your new year is going. Let me know how the reading is going, how the writing is going, and I will see you on the next bookish or writing video. Bye!